Hello there, YouTube, and welcome to another cat stream. And today is our main focus of my story is probably going to be the conspiracy theory. And I use inverted air commas, but you can't actually see that, so there's a bit, pointless. But we're going to be doing that as our main story today to find out if we actually even think that these sort of things actually happen or could happen or what's going on. But first of all, I'm going to take the time to introduce my illustrious guests. And obviously today we have the Laughing Ogre on with us today.
Hello, you lot. Good to see you. Good to be here on a wonderful Friday the 13th.
Indeed. And today we also have Magic Bollocks. And yes, we've all made up and we're all friends and we've all sucked each other off.
I didn't know we fell out.
Hey, not all.
In that case, bend over.
Woohoo! Wait, hang on a minute.
We have to be good examples for the people out there and show them what it is to be honest to God, good-hearted trolls.
See, this is the reason why I have to have Ogre on to actually balance me, because if it's just me and Magic, he just pulls me into all different contorting shapes and I just can't take it.
Funny thing is, you've never given me the impression you don't like it.
I never said I didn't.
All you said was one little tickle and all it took.
Yeah. I can't help it.
It just wouldn't be the same without your bollocks, that's for sure. Now that you're around, you're like it would be like lasagna without the cheese, mate.
Again, I don't know, is that a compliment or a possible backhanded insult?
Lasagna without the cheese would absolutely suck. So I'm saying, no.
I know, it's just the fact you chose the cheese, that's all. It's just only when a bloke's told he's compared to cheese. Never mind.
Oh, how about okay,
never mind. He was trying to be serious, and we're what, less than 2 minutes in, we've already fucked it up.
Yes, correct.
How about the cheese on a pizza then? You know that's the most fucking important ingredient.
I know, but comparing a bloke to cheese, it's not a good thing, really, is it?
Well, it depends if it's on your helmet or on the food.
Well, it'd be like going to a chip shop and not getting a bloody fish. Then how's that? Fish is not much better. Let's move on.
Yeah,
let's just move on. I'm digging a fucking hole over here.
Oh God, we're doing so well. I'm talking.
I want to ask a question before we go right into the news. Does anybody here have triskaidekaphobia? Is anybody here abnormally self-conscious about it being Friday the 13th?
I thought you meant a fear of frisbees.
Triskaidekaphobia means fear of the number 13.
Right. Okay. I'm definitely not afraid of frisbees.
No. Does either one of you all do anything different? Like, I know people that, honest to God, if they're driving down the road and a black cat crosses their path, they will slam on the brakes, turn around, go home, and then go back to wherever they were. They will not cross the path of a black cat. I know people won't walk under ladders, won't, if they break a mirror, they say 7 Hail Marys, all that stuff. So I'm just wondering, neither one of you there's nothing. I mean, right, it's just another day.
For Friday the 13th, absolutely nothing, but I can't walk under a ladder.
I will be totally honest with you, I didn't even know it was Friday the 13th until you just pointed it out to me.
And he was at work, and he had to do work on his computer as well. Now, think how shocking that is.
That's how little I actually care about this supposed, 13 being bad. I've had just as many good Friday the 13th as I've had shit ones, so I'm not seeing a pattern emerging there.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It's just a crock of shit. I believe that, and it's hard for me being someone that has the beliefs I have that we're not going to even touch on right now, but I can't wrap my mind around people that do have these phobias, the honest to God phobias, where they just have been told by somebody that if you look in a mirror at midnight and you say Bloody Mary 3 times, you'll be haunted by a ghost. I know people that won't look at a mirror at night, terrified of it. But anyway, I just thought I'd start that way. We got some pretty good news coming up, and it's always good to think about something. I think everybody out in the chat is saying they don't give a fuck. Is it Friday the 13th? They don't even give a shit. Aaron Telford saying anyone being worried or scared of Friday the 13th is being silly, and I couldn't say it any better than that. Quinn says phobia is the best one. Fear of fears.
What about if you have a complete and utter phobia of wasps, or as you would call them in America, yellow jackets?
Yeah. I don't know what that's called. There is a name for that. It would
Yeah,
be,
but that's mine. That's the only thing that I'm fucking scared of. I would rather go into an absolute octagon ring with a 10-foot black man as wide as a bus. I'd rather do that than be anywhere near a wasp.
oh yeah. Well, when I was young, once in a while, me and my brothers would get in trouble. We'd go mess the neighborhood up with our motorcycle. We'd do something stupid, right? And Dad would whip the shit out of all of us. I mean, he'd line us all four up, and he'd beat us till we wish we were dead with his belt. And so sometime, we'd have a little grudge against him. My stepdad is 6'6", was 6'6". He ran around about 185 to 190 pounds. Big fucking guy. And terrified of snakes. So what we would do is we'd wait till Dad was on the riding mower and had us all we had handheld, not power weed whippers, but the kind you swing back and forth like a golf club, doing the weed whipping. And if we found a snake, which we usually did, like a garter snake, all you had to do is say, hey, Dad. And when he turned around and he'd see the snake in your hand, he'd jump off the fucking riding mower, would never stop it. The riding mower keep going. He'd jump off that sumbitch, falling over his own ass to get out of the way. So that was our little way of getting back at the big bad dad, when he beat our ass for being jackoffs.
Does anybody suffer from, what's it called again? Gynophobia.
Fear of vaginas?
Mm-hmm.
Not me.
Yeah, I had to think what the word was. I kept mispronouncing it for years, calling it gynophobia, but no, it's
gynophobia.
Gynophobia, yeah. The actual fear of the vagina. Now, I hear that a lot of homosexual men suffer from it.
Yes, and I know it exists. I know that's a real thing, like philistophobia, I want to say, like being afraid of a phallus. That does exist. It's so strange. This gentleman is why, as we get into some of this real news, this first story you got here, Common Sense Guy, I kind of wanted to get Cabbage Patch on here, but we all know how it is when we start getting other people in on a serious day. It kind of gets tough with a bunch of people. So I didn't even ask you, but this first one is, what I'm trying to say is, when we think about this, that there really are people, Magic Bollocks, that are afraid of vaginas. They're terrified of a vagina. I mean, imagine that. Why do we make light of those people by saying things like homophobia and Islamophobia? That's making light of an actual mental illness.
To be fair, though, there was actual homophobia to the point of people did have an irrational fear of gays and homosexuals in general. That's why there was a law written that, especially in America, they could actually get away with hurting somebody like that because it was a phobia, so there would be an instant reaction.
But see, Common Sense, that makes my point. That's because if you just start saying, if you disagree with the homosexual lifestyle, you're homophobic. If you disagree with grown Pakistani men raping little girls in Telford, you're Islamophobic. That is making light of the fact that there are people that are Islamophobic. There are people that if they see a Muslim walk into the restaurant and they're there with their family, they'll be like, oh, and they'll get their fucking family and get the fuck out of there and not even pay the bill. It's making light of the real thing. I know probably both you boys are like, is the ogre going to talk about this again? Because I probably mentioned it about 50 times.
No, it's a decent conversation to actually have, because especially with the idea of Islamophobia, especially with what you just said, I don't think there's anybody actually in the world that would actually have an irrational fear of literally running out of a store because they see a group of Muslims in McDonald's, for instance. I know that wouldn't happen because they couldn't eat meat and blah, blah, blah. But it's just a case to me that I don't see that could ever fucking happen. I don't see how somebody would be that scared. And as you quite rightly said, the actual terminology of it is to have an irrational fear. Not to say that you want to talk about a particular issue and then that issue is then deemed Islamophobic, or you have an Islamophobia because of it. It's just a way of shutting down the actual fucking conversation rather than actually discussing it. It's ridiculous. Just using different terms like racist, bigot, and all that type of shit. I was talking to a bloody Remainer today, hence why I picked up one of these stories as first one as well, where I was asking this person what's going on and why do they think what they were doing. And a lot of people got involved and whatever. Which is fine. I can handle myself and whatever in Twitter and I don't need people to help. But a lot of people like Jensen Quinn and yourself as well noticed a tweet that I popped up, which was, I asked this woman, well, okay then, why did you vote to leave? and she responded with, "It's on my Twitter page. Go and have a look." It's like, well, that doesn't fucking help the conversation, then, does it? I'm trying to have a proper conversation with you and ask you how you think and why I think the way I do, and actually find out what common ground we've got and trying to. But then again, that's just trying to use too much logic.
Yeah, well, because then you're trying to have an open dialogue instead of reading somebody's declarative statement and not being able to have any kind of interaction. That's what they want. Common sense. They don't want to have to open their mind, or even to have it a possibility that some young upstart from London is gonna change their mind. Oh my God, how would they sleep at night? So they couldn't possibly let you try to talk common sense to them. They don't want to hear it.
Well, funny you say that. They stopped talking to me after that.
Yeah, there's no way. They don't. Again, sunlight, best disinfectant. They're fungus. You just happen to be the sun this time.
Oh, quick question for all of you as well, because you know what I'm like when I'm having my little debates and things like that. Somebody said to me that calling somebody a Ramona is the same as calling somebody an idiot, a Brexit idiot.
I don't know. I guess. I mean, it's derogatory. Let's face it. It's derogatory.
No, it means the Remainers who can't take the fact that they lost.
Yeah,
that's what it means.
It's different. But
it is basically a way of saying, get over it.
Yeah,
you lost. Tough shit. You didn't get what you wanted. Stop being a little child with a tantrum. Grow the fuck up, and let's get on with it.
Yeah, but when they say Brexit idiot, I have to agree, though, because when they say Brexit idiot, that is blatantly saying you're stupid.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we won, so fuck you.
Yeah, well, but that's derogatory, and saying Ramona.
Yeah, but the difference is we are grown up enough to say it's an insult. It doesn't affect us. We still won.
Yeah, but that's the point that I made to this person when he made the comparison. I said, well, a Ramona is it's talking about an action that you do, where a Brexit idiot is actually attacking the character of the person.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how is that on par when one's talking about an action you are doing, where the other is defamation the character of that person?
Yeah.
The truth of it is, common sense is that they're an idiot in the sense that it's somebody who's got skin in the game and might lose money. So you're an idiot because I might be worse off. That's what they really mean.
But they didn't even suggest anything like that. All they were doing is just calling people names. That's the reason why I started talking to them. It's like, well, okay, well, give me the reasons why you voted leave and why you voted remain, and let's have a conversation. I'll be nice to you. I'll talk properly with you. And then it's just like, you're just a Brexit idiot. You don't have a fucking clue. And it's like, well, okay, then that's fine. That's really helpful. Well done on the name calling, bro.
Yeah, let's have a argument about the actual economic reasons why it's a good thing to leave and why the EU is such a technocratic and undemocratic system that's completely against fair democracy. And then you'll get all this sort of, you don't know what you're talking about, fucking, and then you'll get the ists eventually, won't you?
Yes.
Yep.
Or isms. Yeah.
Or, as you get for this actual story, you get Remainer groups that launch a £1 million fucking bid to scupper the whole idea.
Yeah, this is another thing that I find amazing, especially from people who are middle class or below, and they still think that leaving is a bad thing when you can see this part of the establishment doing everything in their power to keep us in. Doesn't it tell you a little something about what's really going on?
Well, it definitely shows you where the authoritarian mindset lies.
Would there be anything like this happening if we had actually voted to remain? Would there be the money behind groups to, try to get a second referendum?
No way.
No one in the mainstream would be talking about it at all anymore now.
It's just like, hey, look, we look at Hogg, right, and all these other kids, and I'm not going to bring up a gun debate. I'm just going to make a quick point of using this point. Now, see, I can't even remember the other kid's name. There's this other kid that's going around that is a Republican. He's extremely intelligent. He has been on Fox because they can't ignore this kid. I mean, he is a 1%er, if you know what I mean. I don't mean money. He's one of those 1%ers. He's a freaking true academic gangster, is what I'd like to call him.
Ben Shapiro.
He's extremely intelligent. He's a young Ben Shapiro, yes. And so, I mean, you don't see this. Where are the rallies? This kid would do it. But no one's putting up millions of dollars to print posters that say, let's steal everybody's rights because we have feelings. If nothing else, it shows you where the authoritarian mindset is, lads. As you said, if the Brexiters would have lost, you lot would have turned around, about faced, and went on your own. I want to say his name, but I'm not gonna. The common sense guy and I really know somebody really close that was a Remainer that at first tried to kind of pretend that they were okay with it, but as time has passed, has truly shown their colors, and now is just a Remoner. You know, total Remoner. Just can't accept. In fact, it's bled over to Trump is evil in everything he does. You know, even I've heard him say some bad stuff. I've seen him say some bad stuff on Twitter about Reese Mogg. And last I know, he was support anyway. I mean, it's just ridiculous, man. This is a childish mindset. And I think Bollock said it best when he said, well, you have a group of people over here that you could call us pedophiles, if you wanted to call us that. And I'm not saying I would want that, but I guess, I mean, if that's your style, go ahead. But boy, if you even, you know, said that a Remainer was foolish in their thinking, oh man, you're a homophobic, xenophobic bigot. It's fucking
racist, you mean? You mean you're
right,
racist.
all of that. Oh, and they'll pile on a lot of fucking jackasses and horses' asses on top of that too. These people, boy, I tell you, oh, Lord have mercy.
Right, let's get on with this actual story. I think we've done a fucking long enough fucking intro.
Oh, sorry. I actually thought we were on the story. So it says right here in the this is coming out of the Daily Mirror. Thank you so much to the Common Sense guy for gathering together our 5 stories today. A wonderful job as always, mate. It says Remainer Group launches £1 million drive to stop Brexit by forcing second referendum as negotiations reach a critical phase. A £1 million campaign to stop Brexit by forcing a second referendum will be launched this weekend, dubbed the People's Voice. Like that hasn't already happened. The campaign brings together 9 different Remain groups and MPs from across the political divide. Tory Anne Soberry and Labour's Chucka, and this person are figureheads of the new campaign, which was revealed today by the Telegraph. Arch-Brexiteer Sir Bill Cash, chairman of the influential European Scrutiny Committee, accused the group of defying the referendum. And here's these people, Tory and the Tory lady, and somebody'd say this name, Chucka
Unamama.
Wow, that's a tough one. I'm glad that I wasn't the only one to struggle with that. So let me. I guess this is very short. So this part is. So I'll just read these next 2 paragraphs. He told the paper, "They are completely defying the British people who made a decision, which was given to them by Parliament itself. The latest poll says 65% of the British people do not want a second referendum. They are living in a parallel universe." Shall I continue, or is that good enough?
It's good enough. It sets everything up for what we really need. And my point is, I was having this argument on Twitter with a gentleman, and he was saying, "Oh, we need a second referendum. We need a second referendum." I said, "Okay, what do we need a second referendum on? Do we need it on the deal or on the referendum that we already had?" Now, generally, most, not all of them, but most will go, "We need a referendum on the deal." Okay, when should we have the referendum on the deal? Oh, we should have it on the 27th or the 28th, a couple of days beforehand to make sure that we know what we're doing. Okay, what happens if you have that referendum and say, for instance, everybody loses their fucking shit and decides that they are going to vote for it not to happen? So the deal then gets cancelled, but because we triggered Article 50, because we decided that we're not going to have that deal, we have to go out on World Trade Organization rules. How does that work for you then? Because all you've done is scuppered the deal that we were going to have and made it worse, in your opinion, by going on World Trade Organization rules. So how does that help your cause by doing this? And the person just left the conversation. So I never got his answer.
They didn't even... Oh, see, that's the problem. When you ask it... I don't know how about you, boys, but the most frustrating thing for me and when I'm having a discussion with someone is whenever I ask a direct question and they do one of 2 things. Leave the conversation without answering it, or refuse to answer it and continue to try to talk about something else and ignore the blatant question. That is, I see Tucker Carlson go through that every night, and I feel for that man. I don't know how he does it.
Well, he does get paid a lot of money, so.
True. Okay. I mean, right. Yeah, I guess either one of us would do it for that kind of quid, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I'd go through that. But no, that's always the question that I've always asked Remainers. I'm not going to use a derogatory term, apparently, the Ramona. But it's a case. I've always asked them that question, and they always come back with one or two things. They either say, "Oh yeah, but it's the democratic will of the people to do that." It's like what, to scupper the whole deal just so you can say we were proved right, or is it the case of we should actually just carry on ahead and actually do what's best for the country because the country's voted a particular way, whatever way it was. We all know what it was, but whatever way it is, we should carry on. That's the point of democracy, is it not? If you don't want to go have democracy, move to fucking Russia or Venezuela.
Well, I don't know. At
Yes.
least in both countries, they still got the vote. It's just all the opposition parties are in jail.
Yeah. I suppose it would work for them as well because they are mostly left-leaning countries as well. So,
Well, that's why they love the whole idea of the EU, is that they're, left-wing politicians who can never be removed from power and can keep implementing rules without question. So, yeah, no wonder they have a big, wide or hard-on for it. But, I mean, with these two we've got on screen, old Anna and Chucko, my understanding, of course, is that they're both very heavily invested in the EU Commission, and I know that I think it is Anna Salisbury's, I don't know if it was her husband or some relative, is actually I don't think he's an MEP, but he's basically got an EU pension. So of course she's got a massive vested interest in us staying in, because apparently all MEPs current and past, unless they've already retired, will forfeit their pensions once we're out. That's why people like the Kinnocks were calling us all racist when their decision was taken to leave, because
and Mr. Ken Clark.
Yes, because he won't get his £800,000 pension. Oh, what a fucking shame. Maybe if you actually done a proper job after you'd left office, after being a two-time election loser, and did something proper with your life, you wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah, it's funny that you've got people that were absolutely barraging Farage about going, "Oh, well, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your pension," and he just goes, "And?"
Yep. He said, "Well, he had a real job before. He's got a pension coming." And I want to say one thing really quick that may hopefully not lighten it up too much. But boy, as soon as I heard the name, as I was reading that, I said Anna Salisbury, and I thought of Salisbury steak for some reason, and it gave me an appetite. And then when I got to look at the woman, I don't ever want to eat again.
Yeah, she's
I
a very tough woman.
don't know, Mr. Ogre. I mean, there's some pretty fucking ugly British politicians, as you've seen in the past. She is nowhere near as bad as some others. So
no, and in fairness, looking at her, I was just trying to be funny. And looking at her, you can tell that probably 20 years ago she was smoking hot.
Well, actually, hang on, just to derail us a little bit. If you're on that desert island again, and those were the only two people on the island, which one?
I'd go for the black guy, the bald black guy. He looks like
you'd be trying to repopulate with him, would you?
Well, not repopulate, but he looks like he could suck the chrome off a bumper hitch. sorry. Look, man, I can't follow this, man. You did it again, Bollocks. I totally blame you, dude. We're supposed to be serious today. I'm sorry. Well, but I just wanted to make that point because these people, this lady, even though she is relatively attractive, I just look at her face. Look at this black guy's face. The smug look on the way he's cracking his smile. Is it just me, or do these people look like they're cunlingers, man?
Well, they're not short of a few bob, let's put it that way.
No, neither of them are, including...
No, both from very affluent backgrounds.
Very wealthy, right?
Oh, yes.
Like the black guy, you can tell by the way he's got his thing knotted that he really thinks a lot of himself, and I bet his scarf or his neckerchief or whatever you call that thing, I bet it costs more than my Bloody Mercury.
To be fair, I imagine so. By the looks of the actual quality of it, I'd imagine so. But that's the thing, though. Labour seems to, at this moment in time, like to preach this idea of socialism and communism, and we're all in it together. And then you look at the clothes, you look at the watches, you look at what they're actually saying, what they're actually doing, where they actually live, and everything else like that, and you just go, "Wow, I know what the idea of hypocrite is, but I didn't realise that your picture was next to it."
So what do you gentlemen know about this? Because we're on this topic, we might as well stay on it. Because I'm showing my bias. Because as I look at this gentleman right here, who they are calling an arch Brexiteer, Sir Bill Cash, and I'm sure that means he is a knight. That is so cool to me. You guys got all the cool shit over there. So when I look at this gentleman,
yeah, we got such cool shit that we put people in prison for talking. Sorry,
I know, but I like your island anyway. I know you got your problems. But when I look at this gentleman, Sir Bill, he just, I mean, he looks like a genuine guy. I see the earnest look on his face. He's got his hand up and he's got a very dignified pinky ring on. He does look like he has a nice suit on, but he does. Sorry.
You do realize that the picture that you're talking about is about Bruce Adams. It's not about Sir Bill.
Oh, I don't know, because it says Arch Brexiteer Bruce.
Yeah, if you look in the background of the picture.
Yeah, it says who it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. So that's not even Sir Bill.
It says the Burgess Group, and the Burgess Group is for a Europe of links not changed. So you know it's a Remainer group.
Oh, so in other words, that was just showing my bias because this isn't even Sir Bill.
Yeah, that's not Sir Bill.
Well, oops. So they say his name, but they're not even going to show a pitch. So this again, and this is from the Daily Mail. You would think that they wouldn't be leaning one way or another, but they show these two people and they say their name, and then they say Sir Bill's name, and then they show this poofter.
Yeah, but the thing is with the Daily Mail afterwards, towards the end, they basically do say that it's absolute hogwash and it's fucking ridiculous because of the 60-something% of people that don't even fucking want another referendum.
Yeah.
So they do cover themselves pretty well, to be fair.
Yeah, I did appreciate that too. They said it right off the bat that they're being very honest in here, where they go right out of the way to say the latest poll says 65% of British people do not want a second referendum. This is my question, lads. You boys are there. I'm way over here across the pond in some miserable, snowy, icy Northland where there's only white people that don't give a fuck about anything and shoot deers with howitzer cannons. That's what we do up here.
I want to live with you.
Yeah, that's all we do up here. So I have no idea. I can't see that far where I can see across that great pond. And so what the fuck is going on? I mean, explain it to me, because it is happening here in my country. I just want to know your perspective. Why is it that they are pretending like A, the country already didn't vote and say they wanted to leave, and B, now the numbers are higher, and you know that the numbers are skewed anyway. I'm going to guess it's more like 70%. By judging by the Britons I know on both sides of that debate. What's going on, boys?
Well, for me, I don't think that much has really changed. It's just a case that the media in itself is still trying to popularize a story that has happened 2 years ago and is going to continue to happen even afterwards. It's just a way of any sort of side that you're on medially, as in your right or left or centre, you're going to have to talk about the biggest the biggest topics. And the biggest topic is in England for us, or the United Kingdom in general, is Brexit in general and what it means for everybody. What does it mean for the Good Friday Agreement? What does it mean for all of this? How are we going to trade? What are we going to do? Where are we going? And these are big questions that we need to answer.
Are they going to stop the Brexit common sense? Are they going to end up stopping it?
No, I really honestly do not think that they're going to stop the Brexit.
That's good to hear. I tell you what,
they might force a second referendum, but I do not think it will go the way that they want it to.
Shit, I think more people will vote exit.
Well, as we've said before, we know somebody firsthand that even though his views may have changed quite a bit, he still says that if it was a vote again, that he would actually vote leave this time rather than remain, simply because of how the European Union have treated us in general.
Yep, I don't think he's lying either. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he definitely wouldn't be lying about that. He's he may be a lot of things, but he's definitely honest when it comes to what he says.
Let's move on. I don't want to slip.
Freud.
Yeah, I don't want to do it. That's all on my heart. Is I'm glad to hear that from you. I kind of want to know what Bollocks thinks. Are y'all is the Brexit gonna happen, Bollocks? Do you agree with common sense, or are they gonna find some way to monkey wrench the hell out of it?
Oh no. I was reading some stuff the other day from, I think it was the Times, which is very pro-Remain, and even they are starting to now concede that it's gone past the point of no return now, which is there is going to be a Brexit, and they can't really stop it. There are obviously some proper hardcore Remainers who still think they can do an Ireland and Lisbon on us, which is do the referendum, doesn't go the way they like, and then force another referendum which gets the answer they want. But Brexit is too big this time. It's not one of them things they can wriggle out of, and I think it would be electoral suicide for the Tories to backpedal on it, even though, don't forget, this is the party that took us in the first place in 73. and with the Labour Party flip-flopping between what the fucking hell they're supposed to be doing. In 1 minute Corbyn is very much supporting it, next minute he wants us to stay in the customs union, next minute they want us to stay in the single market as well. I can't see it, Mr. Ogre. It'll either be a no deal and we'll fall out, which is fine by me, or they'll get some kind of half-ass deal, which will I think it's gonna hurt us in the short term, but in the long term it's going to work out a lot better. And Mr. Common Sense has a theory that the EU's going to fall apart by, was it 2022 was your theory? Yes.
Man, I got to hear more about it. But before you tell me about the theory, but very quickly, let me read this. I owe Binary Surfer one anyway, and I kind of like this. I want to hear what y'all think about this too. Binary Surfer says, actually, there is a way they can screw up the Brexit, and they can't let us leave. Or excuse me, he says they can't let us leave, but he says, but they can screw the terms up so bad that effectively, even though you're gone, you're still there.
He's right to an extent, but if they do, expect civil unrest. I've said it before and I'll say it again. That was part of that march by the Football Lads Alliance through London a couple of months ago. It was basically a message being sent to the establishment that the northern working class can assemble very quickly in huge numbers if they want.
Yes.
Just a very subtle little message going through to our establishment, which is, fuck this up and we are going to fuck you up. So really, for electoral purposes and for their own good, they seriously need to get this right.
Yeah, well, another thing onto Binary Surfer's quick point, it doesn't matter about moving on just yet. Another quick point onto Binary Surfer's point is that, yeah, the thing is that if Europe now come across, because obviously the talks are now being put into the open by David Davis and, well, David Davis mostly. Most of the talks have been put into the public eye, so they can see what's been offered, what's been rejected, and you can see a pattern emerging when you look at that type of stuff, and that is Britain normally offers a fair, decent amount, and Europe offers nothing. There's a reason why they're doing that. People know the reason why they're doing that, and people look at that and go, okay, well, Europe are not really looking after us at all, and they have to remember, we are a trading partner of them. We are their biggest exporter. We buy their shit. We buy a hell of a lot of their shit.
Especially German cars. That's
yes, very much.
Yes.
They must make sure they don't forget that one.
Oh, that's why I love Nigel Farage. He just came, man. I tell you what, I named my number one cock after Nigel Farage. My toughest, biggest, blackest cock I got out here. And what I love the most is when he said, listen, we can live without you, but you cannot live without us. And I was like, man, Nigel's a ball buster, man. I tell you, I love that cat.
Yeah,
he is a man with very big balls to do what he did.
Big swinging brass ones, man, that thunder together and shoot lightning straight out his ass.
I'm sure glad, as a proud Britishman and proud person of the United Kingdom, that he did what he did to get us away from the tyrannical government of the fucking EU. As we all know it, and as I said to you before, remember me and you and somebody that we shall not name talking about the fact that the EU is a state.
Yes.
Remember me telling you and going through everything that it needed to do, and the one thing that he said that they didn't have yet was a proper EU army. Remember that video that I did in December?
Yeah, because it wasn't even, it seemed to me like after that conversation, it was only about 2 weeks later. And then there was that article out saying they were having their own army.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you think we would be having this conversation, though, if it had just remained as the EEC and just remained as a trading bloc and never became political?
Of course we wouldn't. There would be nothing political about it. It would just be a trading union. They wouldn't be infringing on our rights. We wouldn't be trying to contain our own rights and everything else like that. It would just be a proper trading union, and the same things would have happened and the same things would have been abroad. We would have been happy, would have been okay with everything. For a start, there wouldn't be a fucking legislation telling us that we can't turn away any sort of European fucking immigration, whether it be fucking people from Syria, which is nothing to do with Europe, or fucking people from the Middle East or Africa. Again, nothing to do with Europe, but if they come through Europe, guess what? They're European citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing, I hate to keep doing, and I don't owe you anything now. I already mentioned you once, but Minor Surfer, he's got a lot of good information. So what about this, boys? It says, is anyone going to address Turkey joining the EU? Now, we all know that, if you're part of the EU, now correct me if I'm wrong, if you're part of the EU, that means you can travel to other EU countries without even a passport. Is that correct?
Yes, freedom of movement.
Freedom of movement without a passport. And if why is that? Is that funny?
Means of destruction just made me laugh. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, all right. No problem. We can get to that funny joke.
The thing is that the EU wants to have as many countries in it as the fucking European Song Contest. And the way it's going, it wouldn't surprise me if you've got half of the fucking world in the, what's supposedly called the EU, as they desperately try to make up the money they're about to lose by us fucking off.
Yeah, but that's another thing. I don't understand why they're actually introducing Turkey. I mean, I know why they're introducing Turkey into it.
The Muzzies.
No, it's nothing to do with the Muzzies. It's to do with trying to recuperate fucking Greece's failing economy.
Oh.
That's
Good
what
luck
it's
with that.
exactly. We all know that if you chase after a debt, i.e., if you're gambling and you chase after a winnings, you're only going to end up with less money.
Yeah, lose more. Yep, every time.
But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to encourage more people into it. And as you quite rightly said, and Binary Surfer has pointed out, that David Cameron was coming out and saying, no, and Nigel fucking Cleggy, coming out and saying, oh yeah, Turkey will never ever join the EU. We will make sure they never join the EU. Quote Nigel Farage, you're not fucking laughing now, are you?
Not laughing now, are you? That was one of the best. I must have watched that speech 50 times. But enough kissing Nigel's ass for me. I just love that. I really do love that guy. I've never thought so much of a guy that's so diminutive in his stature in my life. I mean, he can't be much more than like 5'7", 5'8". But good gracious, did he not look like he was 10 feet tall when he was dressing all them sons of bitches down right to their face? Him and Boris are my heroes from Britain. They're my two favorites by far.
Don't get me wrong. Boris is a character, but he is.
Well, that's why I like it.
Yeah, he is a bit of a shady character, I must admit. But I would still rather have him in charge of fucking London anyway than that. Sad IQ cunt.
But here it is. The reason I love Boris so much, just aside very quickly, is he was asked one time, is there anyone in any female in the United Kingdom you wouldn't sleep with? And Boris looked right at the interviewer and said, what, again?
I do like Boris in general. I mean, some of the stuff that he's done with this Russia stuff, which I'm not going to get into because I'm sure we'll do a whole stream on it at some point.
Yeah, I shouldn't have.
I want more information from fucking them before we go any further. But the actual fact of Boris coming out and going, oh yeah, it was the Russians. How do you know it was the Russians? Oh well, because they use Novichok. Yeah, you do realize that anybody in the world that has the recipe can make Novichok, don't you? No, it's only the Russians that can do that. No. Anybody that has the recipe can do it. It's the same as saying that only Americans know how to make a fucking cheeseburger. No, if you have a fucking recipe, any fucker can do it.
Yeah, or you can only get fish and chips in London.
Exactly.
Well, we got chip shops all over here, and I fucking don't even want to think about it. Why'd you tell me that French invented that? It makes me so mad.
I didn't. It was the other guy that we used to stream with.
Oh, I knew it was somebody, but anyway, we'll forget about all that stuff. I have, everybody knows that I'm crazy, so I'm just gonna come out and say it. I do pray. You can call it Sky Daddy. Y'all can make fun of me if you want. I just have my little strange things I hang on to, and I have a little notebook where I have things written down in there. And whenever I get quiet and meditate, I look at these things so that whenever I'm meditating, I can, in my mind, bring them before someone that's very important, very powerful. This is one of the things that's on my list. It is. I don't even have Trump on my list. I'd have to read. No, I know I don't. I know I didn't write it down. But I do have the Brexit. I want to see your island. I mean, if it wasn't for your island, I would not be here speaking the language I'm speaking, living the lifestyle I'm living. England was the greatest light in the world for 350 years at least.
Yep.
Yeah, shame it isn't anymore. But
Well,
we're hopefully going to put a stop to that.
Yes, it could be magic. You're right. It's not anymore. Neither is the United States. In fact, I would go so far as to say there is no fucking shining light anymore. It doesn't exist.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I'd like.
Well, I forgot about Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry. Dubai.
Oh, no.
Dubai's
I was actually going to say somewhere like Bangkok.
Yeah.
There's plenty of shining lights there for a single man in his early 20s.
Yeah,
Right,
if
let's
you
move on
want.
to the next story.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you want to. Right. Okay. All right. Good idea. Good idea. Good idea. Enough said. So we have our next story. I already give thanks. We know where they come from. What a diligent fellow. We got some great stories today. That was a good one. This is coming straight from the BBC. I don't know if y'all know it, but that anagram has a completely different meaning here. Okay. All right. So
Bolshevik.
Mm-hmm.
Bolshevik Broadcasting Corporation.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of. So BBC News, it says West Park death. 2 arrested after girl's body found. And I'm telling you, folks, I just want to take a second because I read through these things so that I'm able to hopefully be able to read them without stumbling too much when we're on air. Please, please look at this girl. Look at this girl. And I mean, you can see that she's young. She's beautiful. Okay. I would love to take this little girl and let her ride a Ferris wheel and maybe buy her an ice cream, get her some fish and chips, and hear about her boyfriend or what grade she's getting in school and what kind of, I mean, and those things, this will never happen anymore because, and I'm not going to weep, but when I read this, that she died from blunt force trauma to the head. Somebody was so evil that they caved in this beautiful little girl. It's unbelievable. 2 teenage boys have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a girl's body was found in a park. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce this name. Victoria. Is it Victoria? Is that it? Victoria, I believe. Skolovia was discovered in West Park, this place, on Thursday. West Midlands police said the 14-year-old had been reported missing the previous day, and a post-mortem investigation found she died from blunt force trauma to the head. The suspects, aged 16 and 17, were arrested at addresses in the city. The victim was born in Lithuania, and her family is being supported by specialist officers, the force said. West Park remains sealed off for forensic searches to take place and is to stay closed over the weekend. Detective Chief Inspector Edward Foster said a number of people had come forward with information. However, officers have continued to appeal for more witnesses. The death has also been referred to the Independent Office for Police Conduct as is normal procedure, as the girl had been reported missing. Neighbors have spoken of their shock at the death. One local resident, Cash Shinar, 52, said the best words I can imagine. Quote, "It's just horrific. Police patrols have been stepped up in the area."
I wonder if that "it's horrific" was actually translated.
Yeah, I imagine it was. I also would like to go a little bit further and probably suggest that the 16 and 17-year-old boy or boys are probably of a particular descent. Now, this is not me trying to cause any form of race war or anything else like that. It's just my opinion. It's just my speculation. But I probably would actually have to say that I would particularly think there are particular other religion and probably particularly of ethnic descent.
Yes. And I wonder, and we got to remember Coulter's law. I know you gentlemen remember what that is. I'm going to explain it for the audience very carefully. Coulter's law says the longer they take to give the names of perpetrators of crimes, the more likely it is that they are of Islamic or Muslim affiliation.
Well, in this case, they can get away with it because of their ages.
Get away with it. I hope these sons of bitches go to prison.
No. I mean the press reporting their names.
Okay, I see.
Right, yeah.
Because they are, but aren't you charged in your country as a adult in this kind of situation?
I think if they're under 18, then legally they can't release their names until they're actually tried, I think.
What's up, Memes? Memes is
with
us.
Hey guys, what's going on? Mr. Ogre, they would never do that for any of those reasons. They're holding those names specifically for good reasons.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I suspect if it's not, as Mr. Common Sense was suggesting, and he wasn't necessarily suggesting anything in particular. It's up to the person who's listening to make their own minds up.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually Eastern European gangs at war in certain parts of the country, which I've heard about. And obviously in certain parts of Brum is, especially Small Heath, is now 98% Islamic. But
wait, so not just slow down just a second so I can understand what you're saying. What you believe is that possibly a gang murdered this girl because they had a problem with maybe one of her relatives? It was some kind of gang turf war or something?
Potentially, because they're not given a lot of information now. I just know that when people think of gangs, they automatically think, don't they, of like like your American-style black gangs. But there are a lot of Eastern European gangs that operate in the UK as well now. Again, it's not really reported much because of the fact that, you know, community cohesion, we can't upset that, can we? No, just let them all fucking murder each other, murder our own, and as long as it's kept out of the press, then nobody knows about it, and so everything's nice and rosy.
Well, bullocks, they'll eventually murder themselves out, but then we can just take away knives, so...
You'd think that, wouldn't you, Mr. Memes? But if that were true, you'd have no blacks left in America by now.
Well, it's funny because Memes, when you said, or excuse me, Bollocks, when you said, not your typical black gang. Well, listen, when you say gangster, because of the way I grew up, the first thing that comes into my mind is a greasy, kind of chunky white man with long, stringy, greasy hair and a leather, and it says outlaws on the back, or it says iron coffins.
I know the one you were thinking of, Mr. Oga. It's the long waistcoat, the trilby, the cigar, and
no. I'm talking about bikers.
Those sort of biker gangs.
Where I'm at right now, the Devil's Disciples and the Iron Coffins. Holy shit! They got a clubhouse only about 3 miles from me. The Iron Coffins. You don't want to fuck with those people. They took a hooker from Detroit that wasn't paying her money, and she was a redhead with a bunch of freckles. They beat the ever-loving fuck out of her. They raped her with a pool cue and both her orifices, and then they tattooed her face by connecting the dots with her freckles all over her face, man. I mean, these people are, I know, and look, I'm not trying to say, because it's just, whatever the image comes up, let's face this, because that's anecdotal. Y'all could have just made that up. Let's face this. A gang's a gang, a gang. Don't matter in this case if they're black, Pakistani, if they're from Europe, where they are. If you get a group of people together that are using fear and extortion, man, I can't quit looking at this little girl. I mean, I always wanted a daughter. My wife never wanted to have kids. I would have, most men would I'd like to have a boy. Boys, they're all right and everything. But what's better than coming home and daddy's home, and you got your little girl there, and you sit on the floor, and you make the color.
The love between a father and a daughter is one of the most beautiful things in the world. When I used to do traveling sales, I had a gentleman, and he had his 2.5, 3-year-old daughter, and he's like, dude, this makes it all worth it, man. And it is something.
Yeah. I'm not gonna weep. I keep looking at her, man. I won't even lie, boys. I get a lump in my throat when I see this. She looks like she could be my daughter, and beautiful, and she's gone because of whether it was whatever reason it was. If it comes out that they were Muslims, if it comes out whatever it was, the fact of the matter is that we have to face this, gentlemen. Gun control, whatever, all these things that come up, the evil that is in the heart of man will never be understood, and it will never be able to be legislated.
No, evil does not have a creed or color.
No.
Yeah. That's absolutely true, though. I would like to quickly point out, Magic Bollocks already pointed out, was in Birmingham. It was in the West Country. This is near Telford. This is near Rochdale. This is near Rotherham. These are near all of these places. And as Magic Bollocks has already quite pointedly pointed out, 98% around. Well, it's not that high, but it is in the 90% of people in Birmingham in that area are of a Muslim persuasion. But at the same time,
Small Heath definitely is 98%. I checked that because one bloke I worked with used to live there. Yeah,
that's fine. The 98%, it's fine. It's fine with me. It even proves my point even more than what I was already going to suggest. If it was to the point of obviously coming out to being a gang-related problem, then why is there only 2 people that have been arrested and 2 addresses that have been acknowledged and gone after? Surely, if it was more of a gang-related incident, there would be a lot more people arrested initially. And as this is at the beginning of its investigation, there would have been a lot more people investigated and arrested.
Yeah, I think
so. For only two people to be arrested, it sounds like these two lads probably knew this girl, and they probably tried to entice her out from school. It just seems like that would be its motive to me, and this is my opinion.
Man, I tell you,
it's sad that is plausible speculation.
Yes, thank you.
It's a terrible thing to say. It's a horrific tragedy. I don't know. I mean, does the UK not have like enough police officers or something? I thought they were trying to get more funding. I mean, did nothing else happen? Are they strapped too thin, or are they busy with other things?
They're busy policing Islamophobia. Well, I'm not from there. Let the boys answer that.
No, you're about to give the right answer, correct, but it's not necessarily Islamophobia. It's hate, isn't it?
Yeah, hate speech in general. That's against everybody. You know, if you're slightly transphobic, but by pointing out there is only two genders, or if you're pointing out that some religions don't necessarily have a culture that is acceptable in the Western civilization in general. Just generalize things, and they get classified as hate, or telling jokes, just little jokes in general.
Didn't one of our Discord members today announce they'd been banned from Twitter for a day for
Crumple Point, man,
criticizing the religion of peace?
Out of respect for Common Sense channel right here, I'm not going to screen share what he said because I don't know. I mean, this climate. Who knows? Who knows, man? They could see it and they could just strike down our ability to get together and reason together like we do. But he just made a statement. He said, hey, if the world was flat, then we'd be able to see all the way over to where the Muslims were murdering people, he said. He just said murdering people. And maybe that would make people think twice. I'm paraphrasing. And they kicked him off. They only was going to kick him off for 12 hours, but then they turned around and because he's trying to fight it and said, okay, well, we'll lock you out of your account till it's resolved. And yes, that ties in because it is a shame, as Meme said. This is speculation, and in my heart of hearts, it hurts to speculate about something like this. But it's a damn shame that it's plausible. It's sickening.
Well, you know me, Ogre. I don't like to speculate very, very often, but I put money on it. And you know what I feel about putting money on things.
Yes, I do, about the same way this Jew does. So we'll see it, and we'll find out. If I know you, and I do, I'm sure that when the truth comes out, we will be covering it again. And I say this, I just want to say this. Please indulge me, boys. I just pray that the angels speed her on her way to a safe and restful place. She was a beautiful girl. It hurts my old ogre heart to see her and look in her eyes now and know that, that she doesn't have any breath anymore. It really does hurt me bad.
It's always hard seeing a child be a victim of murder in general, whether it be from boys, men, girls, yellows, whites, blacks, purples, polka dots. It doesn't fucking matter. As soon as a child's been snatched away from life, it hurts most people, and they're normally the most stringent and horrible stories. But yeah, this is another story that unfortunately we will not learn anything from, because if we did, then the first Rotherham and Newcastle stories would have stopped us from ever letting anything like that happen to anybody else.
Yep. Where to go?
Sorry, Mr. Ogre. I just wanted to point something out that me and Mr. Binary have been talking about in the chat. He was saying that it's not really down to a lack of police numbers. It's the way that the police have been changed from the 19s onward, from actually being proactive in preventing crime to simply now reacting to it when it happens. So they're not really making any effort to prevent crime. And I said to him, because I thought we were on the same wavelength, was this a response to the infamous Stephen Lawrence case? And funnily enough, he pretty much said it happened right, as he put it, right fucking after. Which is basically, ever since that case came along, the Crown Prosecution Service are scared shitless of being accused of any form of racism.
Yep,
and so they will happily let these gangs go out, murder each other, chop each other to bits, and get into all sorts of rockuses. And it's a case of then they'll clean up the mess, as long as they don't have to go into these communities and do anything because, that might be perceived as racist. That's fucking ridiculous.
Yes, it is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard lots of different stories about that. I mean, I even did a video on the CPS, obviously not prosecuting one of the 27-year-old men taking grooming, sorry, a 13-year-old girl by convincing them that they're going out and boyfriends, and convincing them that she needs to have sex with this man, that man, and whatever. To the point where the CPS are actually saying, I can see that you're so depressed in your video interviews, which obviously being distressed is definitely a form of, acceptance and, thinking that you actually consent to something going on. Distress is normally there when you consent to things, isn't it?
Yes.
So they say that in the actual writing, not like speaking to her privately or anything. They say that in the writing, and it's just a case of you're not even going to prosecute for statutory rape, which is the most, not the hardest thing to prosecute for, and is the most stringent part of the fucking law, where the smallest amount that this person can actually be done for. But you're not even going to actually even try and prosecute for that. You're just going to collapse the case completely, and that in itself just reports, just in your own heads, what the CPS is going to do if they've got evidence and backing from the public as well, mind you, where people would back this to actually say, yeah, he needs to be prosecuted, at least to have a trial by his peers, so to speak. Then why isn't the CPS actually doing that? And it's because what Binary Surfer has said from the Stephen Lawrence case, and in the case of the police as well, because they won't go out and arrest people anymore either, to the point until they actually got evidence in their lap. All because that they're too scared of being called racist. They're too scared of being called racist that they'd rather have little girls get raped and murdered and killed.
You probably heard this before, but I got to repeat it. Someone in the chat says that Common Sense Guy, what the CPS is known as in police circles, and the answer is couldn't prosecute Satan.
It just goes to show that even within our own force, how little respect they've got with the average officer, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's because the CPS only takes on easy cases. I mean, anybody that's got any sort of form. I mean, I worked as security in courts, so I'm not a police officer. I never have been. I've never been into that incidents or anything else like that. But I can still tell you that I used to work with the CPS quite often with different clients that used to come in and so on and so forth. And most of them would tell me that they would not take any hard cases because they were scared of either being called racist or losing and affecting their stats and their statistics. The fact that they have quotas to fill.
Yes.
That's the scariest thing. That's the scariest thing. When you actually hear it from the lawyers themselves, the CPS, the prosecution service.
But now I've got to just be refreshed. I was told before, and I'll slip my mind. CPS here means Child Protective Services. What is that there again, please? Crown
Protection Service. So basically, think of it as your state prosecution service.
Okay, all right. Because I always thought it was Crown Prosecute, but it's Crown Protective Services.
No, prosecute.
Prosecuting Service. Okay, I'll try to remember that. We get the acronyms together here.
No, it's not a problem.
Well, what do you think, lads? Is there anything else to be said about this tragedy?
Apart from that, it should have been unavoided, and hopefully we can learn from it. Not too much, I don't think.
If I keep looking at her, I'm gonna start crying again, like a damn girl stood up on a date. That's something. But anyway, I think we all said what we had to say about that. Just once more, I want to encourage everybody to, if you're there and you can, send a card to the family. That just says, hey, we love you and support you, and we're so sorry for your loss. And even though you came here from another country, we are English, and as long as you're not here to rape our children and to destroy don't say all that in the letter. Just send them a letter and say something nice. So anyway, here we go. Another great article from our chief today. The Sun. Vigilante warning. Cops threaten to arrest vigilantes. I can't believe the terminology here, but let me try to say this with a straight face. Cops threaten to arrest vigilantes for breach of the peace if they trash burglar shrine again. It says police are threatening to arrest vigilantes if they destroy the shrine to burglar Henry Vinson again. It has been claimed. Floral tributes to the career criminal have been trashed 4 times in 2 days in a tit-for-tat row. And if you don't remember who he is, it's going to tell us right here. In an exclusive interview with The Sun online, one of the vigilantes said he had ripped down the floral tributes, which he dubbed an insult to Richard. Couldn't be better said. Vincent, 37, was stabbed to death by Richard Osborne Brooks, a 78-year-old pensioner, and a botched burglary at the pensioner's house on April 4th. Tensions have escalated since the family of the criminal defiantly built a shrine outside the OAP's home in Heather Green, southeast London. Now cops who are standing guard next to the memorial are said to have told neighbors that anyone who hacks down the flowers again faces arrest for breach of the peace. One of the vigilantes known as Mike told Sun Online, "You'd think the coppers would have better things to do." Gentlemen, this answers a question from earlier. Memes. Why? I thought there was a lot of cops. Whoever asked that, this answers the question. What are they doing? They're standing next to a horrible person's shrine right outside of a pensioner's house that had to go through the trauma of having to take somebody's life because he was standing there watching him rifle. I don't know who remembers the story. He was watching this person rifle through his stuff. He finally had enough and stabbed this person to death.
No. That's not exactly how it happened.
Sorry, go ahead.
The actual bloke that was actually killed, what was it, Vincent? He was actually holding on to this pensioner and making sure that this pensioner wasn't moving, and was actually threatening him with a screwdriver.
Right.
The pensioner then had enough and then scuffled with him, with Vincent holding on to the screwdriver, and managed to turn the screwdriver onto Vincent and stab him just underneath his rib cage. And then everybody all obviously ran away. Now you have to remember this very important factor with this Vincent. He's a traveler and he is a career criminal. He has done no work whatsoever. He is a career criminal. He burgles lots of people.
And a lot of Yanks don't know what a traveler is. That's a jibbo. That's a gypsy is what we would call them.
Yeah, jippo, traveler, pikey, whatever you fucking want to call it, Romanian, whatever.
Yes.
Human trash, basically.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. They make the darkies look great.
Yeah. And this person is a actual career burglary, to the point where the BBC did a story where 2 weeks before he did this burglary, he was already a suspect in a previous burglary. Yeah. That's how much this person was actually going around and robbing old people's houses. They were targeting them.
Pensioners, yes. Because the one that he was on waiting trial for, that was an old lady. That was like a fucking 83, if I remember. It was 80-some-year-old lady. I mean, this person, when I see this picture, and I can't thank you enough, Common Sense, the working of these stories was so great, because after that last story, I needed this. When I look at this gentleman here, I mean, look at this bruiser, man. Look at this guy. You don't want to freaking meet this guy in a dark alley somewhere, do you? You got to look at his forearm, man. It looks like a tree trunk. He's there just stomping, just methodically stomping. That makes me so happy. That's crazy.
Well, the thing is that I hate about these people, that some people are actually going, oh, they should have a memorial. They should have a bit where his kids can go, oh, I miss you, Daddy, and everything else like that. It shouldn't be outside his house. It should not be outside his house.
Amen. All
that's doing is being passive aggressive and letting the person that's an old age pensioner know that the travelers know who he is, what he's done, and he's going to actually have some form of recompense.
That's a good point. Travelers. That's a good point. This is kind of like marking yes, that's a very good point I didn't think about. This is like putting a beacon there that says, this is the old man that killed one of us, because we know the jibbos, they don't give a shit if they were stealing, because they look at stealing from a white person, because yes, they call us white, even though they're white too. They look at stealing from an English person or a white person as that's not stealing. That's what they do. They go, I mean, they're con artists, even when they're doing their quote unquote legitimate jobs. I mean, boy, the Lumbies in North Carolina, they'll pave your driveway. It just won't last for more than 2 days.
Yeah, well, our ones won't even fucking actually pave the driveway. They just say that they work for the council, ask you to pay $1,000 for it, and then they'll fuck off.
Never show up. Yeah. But so we're all, at least we're on the same page. This is, and good Lord, it's difficult. I'm sure, even in my heart, because I've known a lot of these Romneys. I've lived in North Carolina for a while. I was around the Lumbies and the Romneys, and they're all jibbos. The same thing. They're from Romania. They're to be perfectly honest,
Irish.
It's whatever they are. They're just a group of folks.
They're all the voice of one.
I'm sure.
Or sofa
I'm not
fuckers.
gonna say that. But I sure in my heart that there's probably some good ones. I've just never met any.
Well, I used to hang around. I used to hang around with quite a lot of them. I had, as I said to many of you all before, I've had a troubled past. I used to hang around with a couple of them back down in where I used to live and that. And yeah, I've met a lot of them, including being on their best behaviour as I was meeting some of them, and I used to know some of the higher ups there. And I can tell you that all the people that I met there were all cunts. They would stab you while you were asleep.
You mean back when you used to break kneecaps for money?
I never used to do anything like that, and there's no proof.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. We can't talk about that on air. Oh, good Lord. Let's move on. Act like nothing happened. Well, I see this as, again, this is smacks of Dankula and all of this other craziness that seems to be going on in your country. Right now, people are more worried about trying to have a second referendum.
Stop for a second. Go back up to that middle picture.
With this one?
No, the one with the flowers. Yeah, that one. Look how many flowers are there. Does that to you look like a memorial that's made from a family? Or does that look more like a mark to be able to prove that this is where it is and we're being passive-aggressive and letting you know that we are more important than this old man? We are being protected more than what this old man is.
Yeah, it's disgusting. That's why the neighbors, to me, the police are definitely not doing their job. Because what's happening is the neighbors are taking action and they're saying, listen, we're not going to stand by and watch this pensioner, this friend of ours, this upstanding citizen in our neighborhood who have lived a lifetime of service and is now enjoying his golden years be mocked every time. Because listen, who here among us on the panel thinks that this man is happy that he had to murder this person?
Nope.
No way. I'm going to guarantee it. He probably had a few. Well, I don't know. Maybe he slept like a baby that night. I don't know. But I'm going to guess that taking a human life, which I've never had to do, is probably something that weighs on your heart. And so he's been through all that, and now he's got to wake up and see this load of crap. I almost said a load of bollocks, but I don't want to disrespect my panel member. He's got to see this. I mean, if I was in this neighborhood, I'd be doing the same thing. When the cops were gone, I'd tear this shit down.
Well, do you know why all this is? It's because of the fact that the pikeys know how to play the same thing like the members of Religion of Peace do, which is because they consider themselves a minority, they will just scream racism if the police ever try to arrest them or ever try to deal with them. Oh, it's because they're prejudiced against us because of our cultural background and all this bollocks. And it's again thing. It all comes down to the CPS having no fucking backbone, scared to death of being accused of racism. I'll tell you what, if I was running the country, there wouldn't be one single fucking Jippo in this country. They would have all been put up against the wall and fucking shot.
Man, if you were running the country, I'd have a plane ticket tomorrow to be there, bollocks. I'm not even bullshitting.
If you were right, the actual prosecutor of Dank would have been fucking hung by now. Let's put it this way.
Man, I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. I'd have a plane ticket tomorrow because it would be a wonderful place to live.
I do. There's not many people I don't have a sort of a major dislike for, but like a lot of people in this country, I have had run-ins with them, and they are absolute human garbage.
Well, you know what you'd have to do? You'd have to make Common Sense Guy your Minister of Defense, and you'd have to appoint me your Minister of Fun.
You would definitely be my Foreign Secretary, Mr. Ogre. You'd be fantastic at it.
God bless you for that, sir. No, enough fantasy anyway. That was a very good picture. I need to have something to take my mind off that last story. This one isn't much better, but I have to say, Common Sense, when you see this happen, doesn't it make you feel good to be an Englishman when you see your fellow Englishmen tearing this garbage down?
Well, in a way, yes, but in a way, no. The police should never have let them actually start putting it up like that. They should never have been able to do that. They should have been able to make it down the street or something like that. I mean, if they can't make a fucking memorial of Lee Rigby, an unofficial memorial of Lee Rigby, and they had to tear it down because it was unsightly, what the fuck is this? Why isn't this unsightly? Why isn't this unsightly at all? Why is it the fact that Lee Rigby's memorial gets put down and turned up and fucked off, where this one, it's just a case of, oh no, we'll protect this one because it's a fucking minority, as Bollocks has said. And we're scared of actually fucking prosecuting them because we can't even turf them out of particular areas because, you know, they're persecuted and they've got to have somewhere to fucking go.
Yeah, the bin or the incinerator.
Yes.
Or back to Ireland. Go back to Ireland.
Yeah. Oh, their voice has got a few spare rooms.
You keep saying that. Do a lot of the Jibbos live in Ireland?
No, a lot of them are supposed to come from Ireland. A lot of them are supposed to be Irish travellers.
They ain't Irish.
I never said they were. I said they say they are.
Oh, but hey, let them, right. So I'm with you. Let them go back to Ireland. If the whole lot of them look like the voice of one does, maybe they'll be able to make short work of them cunlingers.
Fuck knows, mate. Fuck knows. But we do have a new hashtag in our chat, which is free the common sense guy. Because apparently I'm going to prison because the CPS is going to be watching my stream.
Hate speech, dude. All this hate speech. I mean, you're concerned about 14-year-old girls who've been bludgeoned to death. You've got to go to prison, dude.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. Oh man, alive. It's just such a crazy world we live in now, where honest to goodness, up is down, left is right, right is wrong. It's so beyond. George Orwell is rolling over in his grave and cutting dusty farts as we speak.
Yeah. But that's the sad thing of our country. We keep on producing the same fucking stories, and we keep on producing the same amount of outrage, but yet nothing gets fucking done. No legislation's changed. I mean, one thing that you could say about the gun movement in fucking America, at least they're angry enough to make change. Our left won't even fucking make change to do fucking anything that's going to actually help the country. At least the gun grabbers in America actually think they're making a difference. They're not, but at least they think they are.
That sounds good. I just cracked one too. Here, cheers, whoever opened that. Cheers. Here's God save the Queen. God bless the United Kingdom. May you overcome all of these difficult obstacles to become the wonderful land that you are.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Apparently, according to Lothar Sheffield, the CPS is definitely watching me because he's part of it.
Well, get the fuck out of here, Loafer. What are you doing here, man? Go. No, I can't.
Yeah, when he's not doing dodgy foreigners, he's apparently working, kosher with the CPS.
You can't.
So he's not only a dodgy tradesman, he's also a dodgy copper as well.
Yeah, you can't actually call sheep foreigners. They are Welsh. They are part of the United Kingdom.
No, it's a tradesman term for doing, work without declaring it.
Then why doesn't he say he's just a tax evader?
They like to talk in code, you see. They're like the truck drivers from the 70s on the CB, aren't they?
So I'm doing a foreigner. So in other words,
you could be. I don't know, for common sense, if you want to admit it on this stream.
True. Well, if I'm going down, everyone's coming down with fuck you all.
Right, you're doing a foreigner. Voice is doing a sofa, and Loafer's doing a fast one. He's not fucking paying his tax.
I like that one. He's doing the fast one. I mean, sorry, Voice, but you accepted that, and you didn't even try to stop anybody, so it's now a thing.
Oh, that's a meme, and it's going to run and run and run.
Well, and Voice of One has got big shoulders. He understands a joke. He gives them out as good as he takes them. That's one thing.
He's got to have big sofas to get that fucking thing on his shoulder.
Maybe people don't understand what we got going on here. In fact, I think a lot of people don't. And there's a lot of things we could do to make things different. Hell, I've tried a few of them, but it gets old and dodgy. But boy, it is nice. It is nice. And call it an echo chamber. Call it a safe space. I don't give a shit what anybody calls it. It is nice to get together and see Binary Surfer, Mad Dodge Productions, Stray Sith Mail, The Voice of One, RPR, Jensen, all of our lads that come around that actually have good senses of humor, working minds, and are able to come together even if they disagree, to take the piss out of one another. Wake up, friends. It's a rare thing these days, gentlemen, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Well, I just like to say sofas do not have feelings. They're inanimate objects. Just because you put something between their fucking cushions does not make them real.
No, that sofa definitely feels something when he's inside it.
But wet.
I was going to say, there is one thing tonight I'd like to think that binds us all together. And it's not just that we all seem to be lads. It's a complete and utter despisement of Jippos.
Yes.
Cheers.
Yes.
So join us in the prejudice.
Yeah, I didn't know whenever I said my first opener about the Jibs what y'all would say, but obviously I'm in good company. If you've lived around them, it's tough. in the sandhills of North Carolina, there is a huge contingency. You know, the funny thing, boys, is they call themselves different things wherever they are. As in North Carolina, they call themselves Lumbees, and they claim to be Indians. The Lumbee Indians are not Native Americans. They are Romney gypsies. They have, you know, fairs where they read palms and stuff. And like I said, anyway, I mean, it's just, yes, it is funny that, and God save them, man. I'm sure they have their own gypsy heaven somewhere where they go and they rip each other off for eternity. But get the fuck out of where I live. That's all I can say.
It's definitely not in my version of heaven, because in my version, they're all being kicked straight into the furnace.
Yes. Well, obviously. What do you think, boys? We took the piss out of that right proper.
Yeah, I just looking at time, and it's like coming up to 10:30. We've still got another fucking 3 stories to go.
Did you notice something common sense on Monday where we were not taking this seriously at all? We actually got through all 5 of them very quick.
Yeah, we're actually just making jokes and not actually taking the actual time to do the stories.
I know, but they heard them all.
And to be fair, we only have 2 more left. We'll get through it. We'll get through it.
Let's do it.
So here we go. Breitbart News, and whether you like it or not, this is an honest-to-goodness news source. What a great place to get stuff that they're not going to tell you in the alphabet soup legacy media. Oh, by the way, support Stick, Sex, and Hammer for governor.
Absolutely.
Oh, hang on a minute. I don't think that he's actually running officially anymore. He's actually running unofficially, so he doesn't have to declare his Patreon.
You're shitting me. He's took okay. Oh, okay. Well, we'll find out more about that. But hopefully, he does run officially, unofficially, so that we can promote him. He would. I'm gonna tell you, he'd make a great governor. And I just pointed that out because people don't think Breitbart's real. They probably don't think Styx is real. If Styx got in there, I bet he would do a lot of good. So here we go. Whites need not apply. How nice. It's not racist because they can't be racist against us. Brits of English heritage banned from paid training posts at English heritage. You can't make this up, folks.
Nope.
Historic England, the public body tasked with preserving England's heritage, is advertising paid training placements for itself, the National Trust, English Heritage, and other bodies which are not open to white people. We're excited to offer a number of training placements for undergraduates or recent graduates graduating within the last 18 months. Begins the advert, which is illustrated with a picture of a hijabi Muslim, whatever the hell that is, before the kicker. Now, here's the kicker. If you're interested in gaining skills and experience for a career in heritage and identifying as having Black, Asian, or other minority ethnic heritage or mixed heritage, jump to background to find out why, please see how to apply below. The background section of the advert explains how the Tory government published a culture white paper in March 2016, which challenged historic England and other nationally funded cultural organizations to develop and share strategies for improving workforce diversity. It explains how, in response, historic England developed a workforce diversity strategy which has
Why is it whenever anybody ever says fucking workforce diversity strategy, it's either a case of fucking women-only shortlists or getting rid of white people in a shortlist? Why does diversity mean no white people or no men?
Boy,
I don't understand the country anymore.
Well, no straight men. No straight men.
It doesn't even matter about straight men, because if you have a women's-only shortlist, it doesn't matter if you're gay or not. It matters only if you identify as a fucking woman.
Jeez,
well, there you see common sense. This is how you get around it. Because do you notice the wording back up there? It said, if you're interested in gaining skills and experience for a career in heritage and identify as having Black, Asian, or other minority ethnic heritage. So you, if you choose to, can I now identify as being Black? If you
you could pull a Talcum X on him, right? Like that one white boy that act like he's Black. And
when they say, I go for a job, and they say, well, you don't look very Black to me. Really? Does that look white to you?
Race.
Oh God, you struck my funny bone. Oh man, have mercy.
That's just racist. Well, in that case, then I'm going to stand next to you and I'm going to pull mine down and go, "Is that Asian?"
Whoa, 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 whoa. What are you talking about? I was just talking about putting my wallet on the floor.
So was I. What were you talking about?
Yeah, because
I
obviously,
get mine to China. Where do you get yours?
Yeah.
Have mercy on my soul. Does that look Asian to you?
Oh dear, oh dear. There's that lovely fucking gag, isn't there, about the white man who goes to the black man and says that how do black boys get the big penis and all that? He said, I'd love to have one as big as you. And he says, well, what you do, right, is you get a weight and you tie it around the end and you do some exercise with it every morning, lift it up, and give it about a fortnight and it'll be as long as a black man. He goes back to see him in a fortnight and he says that, how's it going? He says, well, I think it's starting to work because it's turned black.
It's worked halfway anyhow, huh? Oh Lord! All right, come on, boys. My fucking ribs hurt.
If that's a stereotype and it's apparently racist, that's a stereotype I would be very happy to have.
Yeah, and I heard like this reverse rate. Listen, here's another thing, boys. As not to just derail the funny, because y'all just killed me with that stuff. But it says if you're interested in gaining skills, experience, and career heritage, identifying as having Black, Asian, or other minority ethnic heritage. Listen, minority ethnic heritage. Asians are the majority on Earth. There are more Black people than white people on Earth. What do they mean? I mean, if you're a minority ethnic, you shouldn't have to go and say, I identify as white, like Rachel Dolezal or Talcum X. You should just be able to go up and say, I'm white, the biggest minority on Earth at the moment, and plus the most oppressed.
How about Dragon Kid?
I just reread that, and it says minority ethnic heritage. Does that mean that you are part of the Pikes or the Sticks or you're Celtic?
All right.
Might go far back enough, you might even be Viking.
Exactly. All of us are Vikings. I think Viking is around about 70-something% of the population on Earth. Something stupid like that.
But I'm talking about nowadays common sense.
But I think he's right.
You're still a Viking, you see.
But I think he's right. I think there's a little bit of. I think there's enough Viking blood. I think what he's saying. I'm gonna look into that before I just make a fool of myself. I actually think he's being honest. I do believe that there is something to the effect of 60 or 70% of people that have a smidgen of Scandinavian blood in them, of Viking blood, if you want to call it that. That means those Vikings, they did an awful lot of raping back in the day.
Yeah, it's almost like somebody took their idea and run with it.
Yes, sir. And I don't know. I guess I mean, I probably read enough about this. The article goes on and on and on. The biggest thing that bothers me about this, all right, the biggest thing is, you've already pointed out, common sense, is the diversity angle. Diversity means no white people. That's what that means. It means no straight white men for sure. It means white women just a close after that is scum, and then everybody else is better. So that's number one. Number two, if we're talking about, let's leave Butterman out of it, okay? Please, because I don't just buy into that shit. If somebody wants to troll with it, fine. But let's leave Butterman. Let's please all just, at least for the time being, assume that the Butterman theory is bollocks. It's just not. We're not going to entertain that here. But if we're talking about historic England,
you do realize that's not true, don't you?
Do you mean Cheddar Man?
Scientifically, they actually proved that's not true. They actually faked everything. That the actual things do not actually add up at all.
Yeah, there's no way. That's why I said let's all agree that yes, you're right.
It was very, very dodgy science they used on that. Old Shinobi Yaka Wasco did a very good vid on that about.
Voice did a good video on it as well.
Yeah, I just can't believe how bad the reporting is. Well, what am I talking about? I know why they're reporting on it, because it fits the narrative, but it's incredible. If that was a dam, the fucking the water would have pissed through by now, because it's so full of holes that even the light they took the photograph in was deliberately manipulated to make the skin look as dark as possible. Yeah. So when you saw it in normal light, the skin tone was that of a typical Mediterranean.
Man, I tell you what, a friend of mine. Well, when I say friend, we're kind of combatants, but I'm going to pop this in right now. We talk about all this stuff and we hear all this stuff on the news. Well, a friend of mine that we often get together and call each other foul names and scream at each other is a wonderful lesbian girl that goes by the name of Wolfshot. And she lives in West Virginia. And she went up to the convenience store. She has a wife. And she went up to the convenience store to, I don't know, get some soda pop or whatever. She's been sober for 3 weeks, so she wasn't getting beer. She drinks like I do, so I know she's fucking pissed about getting soda instead of beer. She came out. Well, when she went in there, excuse me, she was wearing a hat with a Confederate flag on it. She was accosted by, I think she said 3 black people, and they snatched her hat off. And they, she got her hat back. And when they went out in the parking lot, they chased her out there, harassing her. She drives a truck with a Confederate flag on the truck. It's painted on the truck. They tried to key her truck, and then they beat her. Cabbage Patch Bastard has seen pictures of her and said her face looked like a boxer after 15 hard rounds. They beat her. And then when she finally, to stop it, she's an ex-police officer. To stop it, she had to pull her pistol out. And I'm surprised she did. She could have killed him. If she would have shot him in West Virginia, she'd have been okay. You can't beat somebody. That you forfeit your right to live. So all of this stuff that's going on, I really don't question it. I know the violence. Look at that poor kid in Chicago. They scalped him, made him drink water to the toilet, had him held for 48 hours, made him say white people suck and fuck Trump. And then in the end, they didn't, and I don't believe in hate crimes. I want to make that very clear. A crime's a crime's a crime. If you made a crime and hurt somebody, it's a hate crime by definition anyway. So why, whatever. But they wouldn't classify it as a hate crime because it was black kids. And they had all these sycophants, sycophants, not the right word. I don't even know the word. They had all these race mongers, Van Jones and Don Lemonhead and that one nigger bitch, talking about, no, this isn't hate. These kids are just misled. And it's really this poor retarded white kid's fault because he's white. Man, I'm getting so ill of it. Sorry if I ran it too long there, boys. When I see this, it's beyond, not only can they just beat up my lesbian friend with impunity, and she said nothing happened to him. They even knew who the people are. The cops have not done anything to these people. It's just a wash. I guess they said it was a wash because she told them she'd shoot them if they didn't quit beating her. And then I see this. So we have to be beaten, we have to be tortured, and we can't get jobs unless we say that we want to be black. That's just
It's the war on meritocracy, I'm afraid, Mr. Drogo. All the Marxist rule book being played out perfectly, which is how can you implement an ideology that has failed every single time it's been implemented into the most advanced civilization in the world? Well, that's simple. You just have to bring it down by corrupting it.
Yes. Man.
And they're doing a very good job, I must admit. And I find it hard to believe that anybody out there still thinks that cultural Marxism is just a right-wing conspiracy. It's about as blatant as you can fucking imagine it now.
Better believe it. It's not a joke. It's not something that that the alt-right is making up. And let's face it, the KKK doesn't exist.
Proves it. This story fucking proves the fact that cultural Marxism is in play. All it is the fucking white people are the fucking they're the rich people, and the other ones are fucking the poor.
Yeah, like you said, common sense, and it made so much sense when you explained it to me, because I never quite got why they were after the the minorities now, because it was always supposed to be they were supposed to be lifting up the working class, but they realised that the working class, especially in the West, would not ever buy socialism/communism because capitalism was actually improving their lives. So they knew what they had to do was to basically turn the minorities into their foot soldiers, effectively. And that's what we're seeing. The complete and utter abandonment of native working class people. And then you'll get the middle class, which are the useful idiots who will virtue signal about how wonderful diversity is because they can afford not to live with it. And they don't care until it eventually starts affecting them.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the whole idea of this fucking story. You have a whole heritage center, the whole fucking trust. And for obviously Americans, think of your national park, or parks in general, and thinking that those parks are now not allowed to hire any Native Americans. I don't mean Native as in Indian. I mean any Americans in general. They're only allowed to now put in people that have a form of minority that have just come over from a different country. Can you imagine the discrimination laws that you would be pushing to actually think that this place is actually fucked up? This is an everyday occurrence in the UK now. To the fact of we have women only shortlists in fucking Parliament. To the fact that after Jeremy Corbyn retires or whatever, or dies or whatever, we don't really care about that.
Please explain women only shortlist to me, because you say, I mean, that's a phrase. What do you mean shortlist? Explain that to me.
Basically, if you have, say, for instance, you had somewhere like Rochdale, I use that as an example, and have your city governorship or something like that. The only people that would be allowed to run for a particular party would only be women, ensuring that a woman gets into power.
Yep. And that's how you
that is a definition of a women-only shortlist.
Well, that's even worse than I thought.
That's why we get so many of these SJW women, especially in the Labour Party at the moment, because people... I mean, Jess Phillips came from the all-woman shortlist, didn't she?
She did, yes.
And rather than just say, let's get the best person available to do the job, no, it's got to be a black man, or it's got to be a woman, or it's got to be any ethnic minority. And
so am I to understand there's also ethnic-only shortlists?
Not officially, but it wouldn't surprise me.
But there are diversity quotas. There are diversity quotas, which are basically the same thing.
Same damn thing.
Bit like your affirmative action, Mr. Ogre.
Oh man, affirmative action. They talk about racism. Yeah, we have racism here. That's one example. There's the NAACP, the National Organization for the Advancement of Colored People. We don't have any National Organization for the Advancement of White People. What they say is, oh, it's built in the system. Bullshit. You got to have a higher SAT. There's not. I mean, I'm not even going to get into that. It's just so long. Anyone that says that racism hasn't changed and that at the moment that white people systemically are being targeted for racism is cognitive dissonance. They're intentionally being ignorant.
Well, yeah, in a way. I mean, to go back to the fact of the women-only shortlist, for instance, Labour first tried to implement this in 94, 95, and the Labour ministers themselves, the men, actually protested against it and actually took their own party to court to actually make sure that they couldn't actually do that. So they stopped in 96 putting their quotas in. It got to 98, and then a particular gentleman got into power, and then they changed the laws. They actually physically changed the laws to actually put it in as a form of affirmative action for Americans, positive discrimination, as they say over here. And then it was actually legalized. The Labour Party actually legalized all of it to be able to put quotas in, and the fact of women-only shortlists.
Yeah, old Mr. Blair learnt a lot from the Clintons, didn't he?
Yeah, if you want to put something in under the radar, put in a really, really long law, then at the end of the law, go, and I want to put in women-only shortlists.
And make sure it's not publicised much in the press.
Yeah.
You want it on page 437 of the Daily Nobody Reads.
Man. Well, you got to hide the truth because you're so proud of it. That's the problem. They say how, all these things are the best things and they're going to be on the right side of history, but they can't just come out and say exactly why they're doing what they're doing. They got to hide it.
Well, our hate speech laws have been in for quite a number of years, but it's only in recent years they've really started to use them effectively. I suppose it's a case, bring it in quietly and then leave it for a while, and then when the shit starts hitting the fan, and because they obviously knew what was going to happen with them constantly bringing in ridiculous large numbers of incompatible cultures, that the indigenous were eventually going to start raising their voices and saying, we don't want this shit. And they were going to say, well, we've got this law in place now that says that you can't say that, say it again, and we'll lock you up.
It's coming up quick. I've now it's slipped my mind, but I think it was a 20. Dank's sentencing's coming up.
Yes, the 20. It's my dad's birthday, the day he's potentially going down. Which
so what is it?
The 23rd of April.
The 23rd, right? The 23rd.
Oh, and it's The funny thing is, I've actually spoken to him about this, and well, most of the people in chat know what I think of my father. And as a man who I assumed was, of the traditional left, I thought he would be quite shocked at the whole notion of somebody going to prison potentially for making a joke. But no, he took the attitude of, well, it's his own fault. He should have thought about what he said before he said it. It got him into trouble. And it's surprising the amount of people I've told it to, of a slightly older generation, shall I say. Sort of like, especially the baby boomer generation, who, even though they didn't grow up with hate speech laws as such, they could say whatever they want. They still have this attitude of, well, sometimes if you say things you shouldn't, you should be punished for it. It's like, what, going to prison?
To prison. That doesn't seem English. I'm sorry, Bollocks, but I know you respect your father, even though you don't agree with him. I know you do. I can tell you respect him, but you can't help but disrespect that. That does not seem English. It just seems anti-English.
Well, from the country that gave the world the Magna Carta, it does seem the most.
You invented human rights. Yes, you invented human. I've looked hard, but in 12. Oh man, now I'm gonna forget again. 1215, I want to say. When the Magna Carta was written, the idea of human rights did not exist in the annals of humanity. There was no human rights. You were not born with any right. Any man could make you a slave. Anyone could make you his underling by threat of force, regardless if it came from a state or an individual human being. And then we have the Magna Carta, given to the world from a monarchy that did not have to, that could have crushed your entire populace under its boot, and this is what's come of it. Your countrymen need to wake up and say, are we English or are we not?
Well, most of us would say that we're probably not completely English anymore.
Oh God. Oh man, that's painful. It really is. I'm not even English, and that's painful to me.
Yeah, unfortunately, my friend, it really does.
Well, part of the problem, of course, is they've made it very difficult to carry on the next generation, because when I see my poor niece and to a lesser extent my nephew have both now become adults, and seeing the situation they face of having pretty poor employment, they both decided not to go to university, and that's fair enough. Why should they? Not everybody has to. But the sort of earning potential of theirs is to the point that they can't even begin to imagine owning their own home. Like their grandparents, and I've obviously bought my own place. My sister has literally only just bought her own place, but was only able to afford it because she bought her own council house and had a massive discount. And my eldest sister, the one who was supposed to be the successful one, and the one that my dad secretly has favoritism towards, is the only one of us who hasn't bought yet because, well, it's a long story, but she's basically fucked her life up. And it's sad to think that job security, earning enough money to have your own home if you choose to, and having enough money to have a family without needing money off the state.
Right, to run that household.
It really, really is depressing, and what they've made for the coming generations. And it really does baffle me sometimes when I think about it. If I wake up sometimes at 3 in the morning and I can't get back to sleep and my brain's overactive, I think of these things, and I cannot believe these kids are not actually out every day rioting, desperately trying to tell the government, you better sort this shit out for us and make life better for us, or we are going to ruin this country. We're going to ruin the whole of Western civilization until you make things better for us. The trouble is they're being lied to by academics and university lecturers telling them, oh, we've got an answer for you. It's called socialism, communism. And, oh, yes, it means we'll be taking the money off all them rich bastards. Not us, because all our money will be out of the country in a trust fund. But, yeah, we'll get the money off the rich bastards and it'll all be given back to you and all have wonderful lives and all this crap. And they don't realise is that who are actually funding all these people. And if you actually dig deep enough, you'll find out it's all the big multinational corporations who would love to have, just the whole world broken down into sections with like America and Europe and Asia, and they control it all and control all the fucking production and all the fucking labor, and it's not going to end well for anybody if it goes down that route. And that's why things such as us voting Brexit and the Americans sensibly voting for the anti-establishment candidate, and even in some European countries now, thank God, they're voting against what the establishment wants, and long may it continue, I say.
Amen.
I second that.
Well, boys, what do you think? What do you think, Common Sense? We got one more story.
Well, we didn't start to about 12 minutes past, so as long as the story doesn't take too long, I think
totally up to you. We can just kick it off right now. It makes no difference to me. I do know I'm not going to say what now, but something's happening pretty quick. We'll talk about it when we ain't going to encourage people to leave. Most people in the chat know, but I'm not going to plug somebody while we're in the middle of our show.
Yeah, well, I think that we kind of really have to do this story because it's the fucking title of my bloody live stream.
Yes.
So I have to do
Here we go. So Euronews.Europe. This is, I'm assuming this is a good enough news site. I don't really know. I don't have faith in this, but I do have faith in our beloved leader tonight, the Common Sense guy. So here we go. Syria, chemical attack. What we know so far. As many as 500 people were affected by an alleged chemical attack in Doma, the rebel-held eastern Ghouta, Syria, on Saturday, various sources claimed. The Syrian government denied being behind any use of chemical weapons. Euronews spoke to two experts in the field and gathered information put forward by international organizations and investigative groups. Here's what we know so far about events at the weekend. What evidence suggests this was a chemical attack? Question mark. Photos and videos describe...
Wait a second. I just wanted to point out language. Very, very important on this bit. What evidence suggests this was a chemical attack? Question mark.
Yes,
so in other words, they're not fucking sure it was.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's why. Yes, sir. Way to point that out. Photos and videos described and as shot in Doma after an attack purported to show a significant number of casualties, with many of them located in a single building. The victims appeared to show symptoms consistent with a chemical attack. Open source investigation group Billingcat geolocated one of the videos that the White Helmets, a voluntary rescue group operating in rebel-controlled Syria, said was filmed in Doma. From around the noise...
That's interesting. If it was geolocated in one of the videos that the White Helmets were supposed to be in, then why does it only say was filmed in Doma and doesn't actually say actually filmed in Doma?
I know
language
this the way
is very fucking important.
Yeah, the way they're saying this, they keep saying purported and appears to be. This is really dodgy how they're writing this. This is foam around the nose and mouth, quote, is one sign you see after nerve agent exposure, close quote, according to All-Star Hay, Professor Emeritus of Environmental Toxicology at the University of Leeds, who examined the symptoms seen in the footage. He added, it also looked as if people had collapsed, quote, collapsed almost where they may have been exposed, close quote, provided the bodies had not been moved deliberately.
So even they put that in there. That's a news organization adding that addendum.
Provided that the bodies weren't moved. Yeah, the whole thing is kind of smells funny. Suggesting exposure to something, quote, very toxic, close quote, and not to just chlorine.
Which is the official story so far, that chlorine went off.
How far down do you want me to go, Common Sense?
I think that we can really carry on from here. We don't really need to go on too much. I mean...
the rest of it's just reiteration.
Exactly. I'm more interested into what everybody actually really thinks. I mean, I've got my fucking theories on this. I mean, I've watched V's video, I've watched Sargon's video, and I've made my own fucking points on this before. The first point that I want to make is, if Assad is crazy enough to use fucking chemical weapons the first 2 times, if, I mean that in big fucking capital fucking letters, if he's able to do that and did do that, why would he do it the fucking 3rd time? Why would he know that if he did it, that he would be inviting America and fucking everybody else to be actually come back into the country and fuck him up, so to speak?
No, it stinks to me, brother. This smells to high heaven.
But what's even worse, Ogre, is the fact that he is weeks, before this attack, he was weeks away from actually winning against the rebels, which, mind you, the rebels is a fucking loose term. It's a conglomerate of IS fucking fighters. Remember, Islamic State, ISIS, is Islamic State for Iraq and Syria. So remember that, for fuck's sake, people. We funded that, remember, as well, to begin with. There's lots of proof to obviously prove that as well. So when people keep on saying, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, I find that fucking very, very interesting that people don't actually realise that he's weeks away from doing it. He's now invited the Western world to now come into the country to destroy him, so to speak. What person would fucking do that? Even if you got a screw loose, after the first 2 times it purportedly happened, why would you do it a 3rd when you're so close to winning?
You wouldn't.
It makes no fucking logical sense.
Look, I don't give a shit if it's Trump, because a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I thought you supported Trump. I hope not. I mean, we got a lot of our friends here, but it don't matter. Somebody's going to think that. But it doesn't matter if it's Trump, if it's Bush, the puny Bush, or Bush Senior. It doesn't matter. The sinking of the Lusitania, the Pearl Harbor, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, 9/11. You can go back. They were all... the Hegelian dialectic is real. Problem, reaction, solution, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, however you want to say it. You want something done. What do? Oh, allow or create a catastrophe. You want to take people's rights to just jump on an airplane. Just buy and cash a ticket. Don't give any name. Fly wherever they want. You want to know where they're going. You want to know who gets on a plane, goes where. You can't just tell people that. They're going to say, fuck you. We don't have to. Oh, what do? Oh, you allow or you fly planes into buildings and into the Pentagon, and then you blow stuff up. You make a big scene of it. And then you say, well, if you want to be safe, you will give up this right. Take off your shoes. We'll put our fingers up your anus. We'll pat you down. We'll feel your Johnson. We'll grab grandma's tits. And that's how we'll work from now. And everybody says, oh, yeah, of course, because that's the synthesis. That's the solution. And that's all we're seeing here, common sense. I do not believe for one instant that Syria fired any. I don't think they did it the first time, common sense. I looked into that as deeply as I could. I went to the deep web, went to Forge. I went to everywhere I could that I thought I was getting at least reasonably close to the real information. And it was bullshit. It didn't happen. They did not gas anybody. We're using that as an excuse as we did WMDs.
Well, the second one is there's definitely no fucking proof for the fucking second one. There is no proof whatsoever for the second one. Even fucking General Maddox comes out and says there's no proof for it.
Yes.
But the first one's fucking ridiculous, to the point where they had the UN investigating if they had chemical weapons, and 8 miles away from where the UN were, there is a bomb that accidentally or on purposely goes off to hurt people. Why the UN are there in full view of the UN? Very fucking coincidental. Yeah, and I'm not somebody who believes in fucking coincidences.
Yeah, very suspect, my brother. Very suspect.
And as all of you know, I'm not one for fucking conspiracy theories. I mean, I like to entertain the ideas. I really do. I do like entertaining the ideas, and I do quite a lot. But I'm not one for completely and utterly believing in everything that's there. I like to do my research. I like to do my points on it. And I don't generally talk about most conspiracy theories. But I don't feel that this is a conspiracy theory. There are so many people out there that are proving the fact the white helmets, which are supposed to be out there, for instance, to actually gain medical training and actually help people on the ground medically, that have been proven by people like V and other people like that do not have any medical training, that are basically a propaganda machine for ISIS.
Yes.
You then have other things like that are just not coming out and actually playing ball, so to speak. You have the BBC that used to go into Syria before this war actually happened and asking people what their opinions were on Assad, and all of them, even when they tried to press them, said Assad was actually a really good leader and he's actually done the best thing for Syria by keeping ISIS out and everything else like that. They actually supported him. And that was everybody that the BBC fucking interviewed. Because even when they started to interview people that didn't like Assad, they still come on and said, well, no, he's actually not that bad. He's all right. I just don't see where these rebels are supposed to have come from. I don't see where this idea that the chemical warfare is supposed to have happened.
I think I know where they came from.
Well, I have a fairly good idea myself.
I think that Donald Trump needs to be able to attack Russia. I think that there was no collusion, but I think that right now, and hey, I mean, this is just what I believe. I think that right now, Trump is freaking the fuck out because everybody's saying Russia, 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 this Russia investigation. He can't fire Mueller. Feels like he's in a corner. So he's using this and he's going to try. He said, we're going to shoot new smart missiles at you, shiny and new. He said that on Twitter. And so he's trying to find a reason to show how much he's not in bed with Russia. That is so dangerous, man. That's fucking crazy.
Well, that's the thing that's going on in our country at this moment in time as well from Theresa May. She's issuing a war cabinet, which is fucking so fucking British. It's unbelievable. But we're in a war cabinet meeting at this moment in time to decide whether or not we're going to go to war without issuing one, a credence to fucking Parliament. So a vote to decide whether Parliament is going to let us go to war, which would be a no, by the way.
No.
Or a referendum to the people, that if the people wanted us to go to war with Syria, which would also be a no.
No.
Because we're not fucking stupid.
Not going to throw your young men away.
Exactly. We know if we went to war with Syria, we would end up going to war with Russia, which means that we would have World War III for no fucking reason.
Fuck that. And who wants a war, man? I mean, you're common sense. You're still of the age. I'm an old man. It'd have to get really hairy before they got me. But you're young enough. They'd fucking...
I'm disabled.
Nah. What, are you? Okay.
Yeah,
thank God then. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry you're disabled or whatever. I don't consider you disabled. I guess I did know that, but you don't comport yourself as, you know, you're not a victim.
God damn it, I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm fine as well. I've got flat feet.
Oh, well, I'm a Jew. I don't want to get killed. Does that count?
No.
Is that a disability, being a Jew?
Yes, I'm terribly self-deprecating and you know, oy vey.
They have incredibly bad backs with the amount of money they have to carry around.
Yes, yes. My Jew gold is weighing me down. Actually, collect silver, but
normally goes in the front. It's normally on their chest. You know,
it's weighing them down, isn't it?
Look, look. I'm such a Jew. Right on my desk. I don't even have to move. Right on my desk. I have silver right on my desk. I carry it. This is my little silver purse. I carry it with me.
You can't do a stream these days without a little bit of anti-Semitism creeping in, can you?
Oh no, but look, I carry my this with me, boys. I just want to get this little antidote, and I've got these little 1 gram bars, and then I do carry about 4 or 5 1 ounce rounds, and sometimes bars with me. And what I do is, whenever I go out to party or go to the bar, or go out to eat or whatever, I take this with me, and this is how I tip. If I get a really good waitress or a really good barman, you know, that's taking good care of me, pouring me good drinks, and then just always there, Johnny on the spot, I'll leave them an ounce of silver. And that is equivalent to, you could sell one of these rounds on eBay, especially like this one. This is a Pinehurst coins round. So it has a little intrinsic value from the silver, but it also has value because of what it is. And so, I mean, it's like giving somebody $25. But I remind them, I say, listen, I don't care how rich or poor you are. Take every extra penny you got and buy silver because you're not rich. Buy silver. You can buy a lot of it and it will never lose its value. I think I've reached a few people that way. That's what I've done. I mean, that was my #1 investment through my whole life. About 90% of my savings is in silver that I can touch. #1 that I can touch. And then about another 5% of it's in copper and steel. Anyway, I'm going to go on. Look, don't buy paper, folks. If paper is for starting fires. Oh my God.
Yeah,
that was so off topic. It sucked.
Not really. No, it didn't really suck. Not at all, mate. I would like to probably say that I do feel that this story is quite obvious to most people, but at the same time, I think it's more of a case that some people. I mean, we were talking about obviously Magic Bollocks' dad earlier, and I'm just going to talk about mine very quickly. I honestly thought that my dad was a bit more liberal in his ideas. Well, I found out today that my dad's a fucking authoritarian. I don't even mean like a fucking like a slight right winger. He's like completely and utterly authoritarian. If you don't agree with my views, then get out of my country type thing. I honestly did not think that was my dad, but that's my dad. He's an authoritarian cunt.
Man,
well, I was speaking to him.
We got to talk off air. We got to do a charity drive or something. We got to get you the fuck out of where you're at.
Yeah, we'll do that as another point. It's not a problem. But I was talking to him, and my dad was, and I was saying to him about obviously Syria and everything else like that. It was like, oh, the government wouldn't do that, and I went, weren't you the one that was screaming to fucking high heaven, Dad, about fucking Iraq and Afghanistan, and the fact that the government took us to war under false pretenses? I was like, yeah, but that was fucking Bush and Blair. I was like, no, it was fucking government.
Yes.
It didn't matter who it was still government.
Yeah, you Trump, Theresa May, Bush, Blair, you put them all in a bag, shake it up. It don't matter which one you pick out. They're all fucking politicians. Don't matter. Anyway,
I called in an authoritarian cunt and I got sent to my room. A 30-year-old sent to my
room. I'm sorry. I guess I shouldn't laugh, but it is funny. The one thing that, our parents, they seem to forget that eventually we do become grown and we do have our own opinions, and we should be able to voice them. And we will talk about all that later, man. We got to do something here. You know what? Common sense. I'm just going to say this for everybody can hear it. You're a hell of a guy. A lot of people, they just lay down and quit. They don't give a fuck. They don't want to go through the diversity. They say whatever. I'm too old or whatever. They lay down and quit. But you're not. That's not in you, mate. And I really respect that.
I appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. Well, I suppose that being said, Magic Bollocks, you haven't said nothing for a while. Give us either a last little bit of word on this story, or give us your final word, and we'll carry on from there.
Cheers.
Well, I haven't properly looked into the whole Syria thing, but only to say that I'm with everybody else, which is it's too convenient timing, isn't it? And we've been sold this story before when they tried to get us to go to war with Syria. And the whole idea of Trump getting in was that it was a means of preventing war with Russia, because we knew that Clinton was going to implement a no-fly zone over Syria if she got in as one of her very first executive orders, which obviously would have led to immediate conflict with the Russians.
Now fucking Trump's.
And yeah, I don't know quite. I'm hoping, I really am hoping that what he's doing is the same shtuck he was trying with
Kim Jong-un.
Bluffing. He's bluffing.
Kim Jong-un, which is the major political dick swinging, which is my bombs are bigger than yours. And the hope that he'll do what Kim did and just back down, agree to a friendly chat at some point in a neutral area, and it will all be sorted out, hands will be shook, and that'll be the end of that. But the thing is that with someone like Putin, you don't really do that. And even though, supposedly North Korea's got nuclear weapons, or so we're told, they always had the big ally of China to sort of talk some sense into him. But with Putin, you don't have that. You have a man with a very large army, a very large arsenal of nuclear weapons, and regardless of what people say is that the nuclear arsenal is much older and not as efficient as the American ones. Again, there's like a lot of information you get. How accurate is that? I would rather that we stuck to what he said during the election campaign, which was, wouldn't it be a good idea to get on with Russia? And the only people who really, really will benefit from any conflict with Russia are the people who they will borrow the money off to fund the war. That's the only people who will benefit. And if there is any major conflict again on planet Earth, there won't be very much left of it. That's why I'm so convinced that the Second World War was ended the way it was. It was America sending out a warning to
Everybody.
every nation on this planet. Look what we can do with these weapons we now have.
Yes.
Do you really want to fuck with us? And that was then. And what we've got now is even worse.
Oh Lord, that's nothing. That's just a little firecracker compared to what we can do now.
Yeah, so the whole idea of any kind of world conflict now is just unthinkable. It actually wouldn't be a war. It would literally be missiles being fired, and then whomever manages to survive might then have to fight in whatever's left, if there's anything left. So
in other words, exactly like what Einstein says, I don't know what World War III would be fought in and fought after, but I know what fourth and fifth will be fought with, and that will be with sticks.
and it probably won't be us doing it, it'll be the rats fighting.
Yeah, going to the Fallout games, having the cockroaches, the rad roaches coming out.
Have you got the tin of white emulsion common sense to paint yourself with before the bomb lands?
I'm just going to
put some zinc on the face.
Some of the funniest things I've ever watched are those videos from I think it's the 60s and 70s about nuclear fallout and what to do to prepare yourself and your family. Build a fucking bomb shelter in your garden and paint it white.
That's going to fucking work.
But a Dulux emulsion and you'll be able to survive for fucking years, apparently.
Oh, yeah, we were so smart back then. Which makes you think that in a couple of years' time, how smart will we think that we all are now, considering how much we've learned in the 40, 60 years since that's happened?
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. And I'd say one of the sad things about the end of the Cold War was they used to make great documentary sort of what ifs if say the Russians and the Americans start fighting. And there's that I can't remember what it's called, that British show they made I think in the early 80s where it was the outbreak of war between the two and basically Britain getting caught in the crossfire. And there's a famous scene in it where some woman who was an actress but isn't working anymore. Her most famous scene she ever got was the woman who pisses herself as the bombs start landing.
I just watched that today.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called now, but yeah, it is basically...
it's called The Day After Tomorrow is the one that's from the United States. I can tell you in a second because it's in my history.
Yeah,
I just watched that.
Yeah, I literally found it because of that obscure fact of this actress whose most famous thing she ever did was pissing herself on screen. And I watched it, and it's very badly acted.
It's called Threads, THREADS, Threads.
Threads. Yeah, it's very badly acted. It's not a great story, but it's just funny the build up to the the bombs landing, and it isn't quite realistic in terms of a nuclear missile hitting the UK. They wouldn't have time to piss themselves. They would be all incinerated.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. And I will say this: the weird thing about that is, it is your version of our Day After Tomorrow. It was made quite recently after Day After Tomorrow, and the Day After Tomorrow was a made-for-TV movie. It had John Lithgow, and it had some. It doesn't matter, but excuse me, it was just on TV. I mean, we could watch it or we couldn't. The Threads, that was played in British schools. British school children had to watch that.
That's right.
And that is not cool to me.
Thank God that I'm not that old.
Do you know what? I actually prefer school kids to watch something like Threads and be told that to not want your country invaded by an alien culture is prejudice.
Oh, well, no, don't get me wrong. There's good and bad in it, bollocks. The only thing I don't like about it is it's just kids. I mean, come on, let them have fun and play. Tell them, do the drills. It's enough to duck and cover. I mean, you know why you're doing it. I remember we used to have bomb drills when I was a kid. We used to, duck and cover. And because it was in the high, I mean, I was 10 years old in 1984. That was fucking, we were terrified of, I want to say,
I wasn't even a twinkle.
Yeltsin, whoever it was.
In a twinkle.
That's okay. 84 was a great year, though, mate. You'd have loved it. It was good. I saw my first live poontang in 1984. Gina Burchett down the block. She was like a year older than me. She showed me her pussy. I fell in love immediately. With her pussy, not her. I didn't even like her, but the vagina was very interesting.
And on that fucking note, Magic Bollocks, take us away with one of your final words.
I don't know if I want to now. I think I want to talk about Fanny.
No. We've been on for far too long.
Yeah, we have. It's time to go.
All right, ladies and germs, it's time to say goodbye again. Take note of what we've been talking about tonight, which is that we're constantly being fed crap and lies, and it's up to you to decipher the shit and lies, put it through your bullshit filter, and come to your own conclusions.
Yes.
Because if it's, say, poor kids getting killed, and they're saying they've locked up a couple of kids, the assumption that they're trying to make is you're going to think, oh, that's obviously just normal white kids killing other white kids, and there's always more to it than that nowadays. Or if it's a supposed chemical poisoning in this country, or a supposed chemical attack in Syria that makes absolutely no sense at all from a man who has effectively won the civil war there. Or even if it's a simple thing like you trying to apply to the national heritage for a job and being told that you haven't got enough melatonin in your skin to get a job here. Put it through your bullshit filter and see what comes out the other end. Probably the same thing that comes from these people spewing all this ideological crap. I wish I could tell you what we could do about it, but I unfortunately am in no position to change it. I'm not a politician. I have no interest in being one, although I wouldn't mind the wages and the pension. But I'm going to leave that to people who would be better at it than me. Maybe that might be, maybe Prime Minister Sargon, maybe one day, not out of the question, or maybe even Prime Minister Common Sense. You just don't know at this point. They play it down, but these great leaders always rise to the top eventually, or maybe even one day, even more so. How about President Ogre?
Oh, God save us!
Now that would be very interesting. But like I've said to you all before, you've got to stay optimistic. You've got to hope that the best is still going to come. We might have to sink a little bit lower yet before we hit rock bottom. But once we do get there, that's when you start climbing back out again. And we're not there yet. I don't feel we have got a lot further to fall. But trust me, there is light at the end of this very, very long tunnel. But it's coming, boys and girls. Keep believing, keep smiling, keep hoping, and just remember, your Uncle Bollocks is here to cheer you up if you're feeling a little bit low. And for fuck's sake, tell everybody about me. My channel has only had 1 subscriber in the last week. It's very depressing. But anyway, have a good one. See you next week, and all the best.
Cheers. Tough act to follow. I would say one thing very quickly before I go into my final word, which is brief. I wouldn't have the job. And so that said, in the job of president, I mean, for one, I would be a shitty president. Oh my Lord, I would be terrible because I'm nuts. I wake up one day and I think one thing. I wake up the next day, I think another thing. Oh, much like our current president, whom I love, but he's also nuts. So here we go. Don't underestimate yourself. And I'm not calling you out. It just so happens that what I already planned to say, Bollocks, you mentioned. Don't assume that because you are Magic Bollocks, Common Sense Guy, the Ogre, Sheffield, Seven, Captain Copilot, whoever you are, Captain Copilot, whoever you are, doesn't matter. Don't assume that you have no power. Well, you may have a monochrome of power. It may just be a minuscule amount of power, maybe a tiny anthill next to a monolithic mountain. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, you have power. You have influence. Someone respects you. Someone listens to what you say. Talk to them. Better yet, find someone that doesn't know that you're respect worthy. Let them understand that you command respect, that your ideas are valid, that your opinions are real and should be considered as serious. Once that's done, don't be a dick. don't be the Mormon that's going around and knocking on the same door 50 times, even though you've been told to leave. Don't do that. But knock on that door, tell that friend about it. Let's do our best to make sure that our children, that the youth of today will have a world tomorrow, that it not only won't be nuked, but nuked isn't the worst thing I can think of, gentlemen. Nuked means an end. And as common sense says, the end is it's the beginning. The beginning is the real end. The end is not so bad. So a nuclear waste and the destruction of the entire earth, hey, that's a new beginning for something. But what's happening now is more insidious and it's worse than a nuclear bomb. And it's called diversity. It's called tolerance. It's called feminism. It's called Black Lives Matter. Let's put an end to it. And be good to your friends and family before you know it. You're fucking gone.
Well said to both of you. They're basically what I was basically going to say myself, actually, to be fair. All of us have had the same fucking thought. Though I would like to add that if you have the case of what Magic Bollocks said at the beginning, where you have the cream always rises to the top, there's also another thing as well that rises to the top, and it's shit. Literally, shit always rises to the top as well. And there is a reason for that. Shit always gets propped up. If you are confident, if you are able to articulate a point, or if you're able to scream loud enough, people will listen, because people will always listen to something that is gaining for attention. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be correct. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be right. It doesn't even necessarily mean that you have to be able to speak English in an English-speaking country. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter nigh on nothing on that. The only thing that matters is if you actually are willing to do something and stand up for something, people will follow you. And that should give you confidence in yourself. If some people are able to follow people that have such intrinnsically bad ideas and they're able to follow them, then maybe there is a chance for people that have actual decent ideas that can back it up by facts, that can back it up by the convictions of their own points and virtues. Maybe there is a way forward. Maybe there is a way that we can push through this demigration of multiculturalism and tolerance that's being pushed and perpetuated by everybody at this moment in time. The fact that everybody always claims that the media is against them. For instance, as I said before, when I was talking to people on Twitter, they say that the BBC is against them, and I would say that it is against me. Is that a process of interpretation? Or is that a process that people actually do believe that they are against them? Or is that in themselves an intrinsic logic or logical fallacy that believes that the government is against them? Is that something now that is intrinsically locked into our psyche now, that we honestly believe that the government is against us no matter what our political beliefs are? That we just think that the government is against us no matter what in general? Is that something that we should ourselves perpetuate, or is it something that we should try to change and make sure that we know what's going on? And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is, as Magic Bollocks has said, is by going into power ourselves, by pushing ourselves as hard as we can, by making sure that we can actually talk to people, put our views across, and actually make sure that we can actually decide what we're doing. But as Ogre would say, that doesn't fucking matter anymore anyway. So with that being all said, I bid you adieu. I bid you farewell. And I'll see you all again real soon. But bye for now.